Hello, my name is Chloe Folan, and I'm most well known as one of the teachers of the Rainbow Bridge techniques, also known as the Soul Star Clearing techniques, founded by the late Josephina Norman Stevens. I'm a public auric reader for the techniques, meaning because of my intact inner vision clairvoyant abilities. I'm one of the public readers and assessors for those who practice the Rainbow Bridge techniques if they're seeking a little bit of feedback as they connect with the meditation techniques. And I also teach the Rainbow Bridge Soul Star Clearing techniques, in particular phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, which is known as Monadic Thread. It's a private level of training. And I also teach other Rainbow Bridge related workshops. I just wanted to quickly jump on my YouTube channel today just to discuss something that simultaneously has cropped up in queries I've received via email that have overlapped with what's come up in discussion with the recent Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 and Monadic Thread classes. So just to give a bit of context, when it comes to Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 techniques, as well as those techniques continuing to methodically enforce building the light body and raising Kundalini in a responsible, graded manner, the Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 techniques in particular, in a really methodical and very clean, thorough way, neutralize and dissolve external karmic imbalance. With continued use, Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 also dissolves internal karmic imbalance, but that's also more Monadic Thread, phase 3 of the techniques. Monadic Thread at phase 3 of the Rainbow Bridge Soul Star Clearing techniques was designed to speed up the dissolving of internal karmic imbalance, because internal karmic imbalance can be more stubborn and harder to remove because it's more ancient in origin. And also Monadic Thread was designed to keep enforcing building the light body to a very high level of development. Where I'm going with this and this video is because that gets discussed so much in the Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 and the private Monadic Thread classes. That's been the main prompt for this video. I've had a wave of solo Rainbow Bridge practitioners contact me about karma, so to speak, and questions around karma and reincarnation and things of that nature. And overlapping with that, with the recent Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 workshops, karma and external karmic imbalance got discussed a lot. And then, of course, that in karma and discussing karma and what that is came up again in the recent Monadic Thread private group workshops. And there was an underlying common thread in all of the questions, no matter what type of karma was being asked about, in what context karma was being asked about, karma with reincarnation. And that's what this video is about today, meaning discussing the underlying thread with all of those questions, which ultimately is, what is karma? So that's what I would like to address in this video, because you can discuss karma from different angles, and context does matter in what context you're discussing karma. But I just wanted to create this video today as a very general, straightforward video, just very clearly in a very straight way, practical way, discussing what is karma. Essentially speaking, karma is the law of cause and effect, and therefore karma is memory. And I would like to explain that. The law of cause and effect essentially is how you work, or whether you work consciously or unconsciously, or how you're impacted by polarity, meaning the polarity of something happening on the physical plane, the polarity of something emotional that's happening, the polarity of something mental that's happening to you, or maybe it's happening internally within you, or something that's been triggered by the external environment. But essentially speaking, you're always working consciously or unconsciously with the law of cause and effect, which is also simultaneously the law of polarity as well. And you always are always consciously or unconsciously working with the law of cause and effect, or being impacted by the law of cause and effect, even in an everyday way, with the thoughts you're working through, the emotions you're experiencing, the physical experiences that you're having. So the law of karma is always in motion through you and in motion through other people around you. So therefore, karma is memory. And I would like to explain this. Whether it's an internal experience or an external circumstance or a bit of both, how you react or respond to something happening is based on memory. So in other words, you're going about your day, minding your business, and then something happens. And in that split second, before you respond, before you react, before you take action, and any action you take, no matter how quick, that is based on memory. You are going to take action on something, meaning you're about to put the law of cause and effect into motion, based on conscious and unconscious memory. How you emotionally respond is based on memory, meaning your reference point, your memory for how to respond or react, because you've been in a similar situation before, or you've got an idea of how you would just react or respond to something in particular. In other words, this is what I mean by karma is memory. The law of cause and effect is always happening in motion through you and other people. It's always working. It's always in motion. But the motion of the law of cause and effect is based on your reactions and responses, and therefore actions, the action you're taking in response to something. And the action you're taking is based on your reference points, your memory for how to respond to something, how to react to something. So karma is memory. You are reacting, you are responding to memory. The memory of how to handle a similar situation. Or maybe you are reacting in an unconscious way, because maybe your memory or reference points for how you're reacting is based on a very deep down memory from a past life. But essentially, that's what karma is. And that is how the law of cause and effect is put into motion internally and externally. Karma is memory. You are reacting to memory, conscious or unconscious. And now I'm going to break this down a little bit more. I'm going to bring up a document that was actually an inspirational document that I typed up in response to a lot of these overlapping questions, but in particular, this document was prompted by questions in the recent Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 classes that I was hosting and teaching. So, karma is memory. Karma is the law of cause and effect The law of cause and effect is set into motion by your actions, reactions, and responses. This is triggered by choice. How you filter your choices is based on memory, and that memory can be conscious or unconscious. Unconscious means below the threshold of consciousness, meaning there's a memory so deep within your DNA, so to speak, that you're having an unconscious reaction to something based on something that's so deep in your memory banks. So there's conscious and unconscious memory within you that's set into motion by the law of karma. And interactions, your interactions with yourself and interactions with other people. So you have past life memory and genetic memory. And genetic memory is ancestral memory. And the latter, meaning ancestral memory, is instinctual or instinct-based, because ancestral memory is inherited through genetic memory. Science has proven there is such a thing as genetic memory. Genetic memory being handed down generation to generation to generation. They've studied this in the animal kingdom. They've studied this in the human kingdom. So ancestral memory is so deeply imprinted into your DNA. It is instinct and instinct-based, meaning that would be the category of unconscious memory. So every action, reaction, or response you have is filtered through memory. The triggered memory can be from 5 hours ago, 5 days ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago, 5 lifetimes ago. Your split-second choices based on memory set the law of karma, meaning the law of cause and effect, into motion. This is why it is important to practice the pause in between trigger and action and start making more conscious-based choices, meaning when you're triggered, try to practice, but this is a lifelong practice. Learnings around this never cease. When you notice you're being triggered or your button getting pushed, try to practice the pause, because practicing the pause helps you to internally collect yourself and practice responding rather than reacting. And that's also how to take a little bit of your power back when you're working with the law of karma, when you're working with the law of cause and effect. When you gather yourself and take a few moments before reacting, you learn to respond. And then each time you learn to respond a little bit better each time. And that's a never-ending learning process. But the idea or inspiration is to work with the law of karma, to work with the law of cause and effect more holistically. One of the keys is to learn to practice the pause when a button is getting pushed or a trigger, and gather yourself for a few moments and decide how to respond rather than react. And that takes time, patience, and practice. And more to the point, you would want to work with the karmic clearing technique to help dissolve woundology in your memory narrative, because those are your triggers. Internal and external karmic imbalance is where you are carrying wounded memory that interrupts the flow of having more holistic-based life experiences. Meaning that's what causes you to trigger, that's what causes you to react, is when that wounded memory gets triggered and it, and it all just. So this is why it's important to practice the pause in between trigger and action and start making more conscious-based choices, meaning responses to situations you observe yourself in. And there's another key when people are asking me about enlightenment. learning to observe yourself, staying in the moment, learning to observe yourself and learning to observe what's happening around you. And then practice responding rather than reacting, and that takes time and patience. So with Rainbow Bridge Phase 2, meaning the Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 techniques that I teach, with Rainbow Bridge Phase 2, we aim to cleanse and neutralize where your karmic memory is wounded by a complex. The process of unwounding allows you to harmonize with the law of karma and make more holistic, conscious-based choices that come from an internally healed and whole place within yourself, rather than a choice being dictated by externally wounded circumstances. Meaning, coming back to, in particular, external karmic imbalance. External karmic imbalance is where you have not healed from wounded past life experiences. And external karmic imbalance has a weight to it. It has a magnetism to it. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when that complex will get triggered, because that complex, because it has a weight, because it has a magnetism to it, it attracts similar situations to it, meaning the wound attracts similar situations to it again and again and again, which keeps reinforcing and validating the wound, which is what drives people demented. Because that's exactly what those complexes will do. Those low-grade complexes have a weight, they have a magnetism, and they will, every so often, attract in circumstances that validate the wound that you were not whole with because of a past life trauma, because of a past life difficulty, where you were not able to come full circle with a particular past life experience because it might have been very jarring mentally, traumatic emotionally, traumatic physically. And that marks your memory records. So then as the law of karma flows through you, the law of cause and effect is set into motion. And the law of cause and effect over what you repeatedly experience is largely dictated by internal and external karmic imbalance. You, of course, have clear patches, as it's said, clear patches internally and externally. Can we please not forget about that? There are areas where your narrative is more clear and your narrative is free of unfinished business, shall we say. But I'm talking about where people get stuck on a negative treadmill with the law of cause and effect and the origins of that, where a wound keeps getting jarred and repeated and validated and reinforced. This is where the Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 techniques provide a lot of healing, because with continued use of the Rainbow Bridge Phase 2 techniques in a very safe, healthy, methodical manner, you safely reduce external and internal karmic imbalance, which helps to clear your bodies, clear your psyche, physically, emotionally, and mentally, which then helps to clear up your perceptions. It helps to clear up the narrative of what you're locked in with and repeatedly experiencing. It allows for better flow of consciousness. It allows for a more holistic flow of consciousness, a more connected flow of consciousness. It allows the physical, emotional, and mental bodies to communicate better. So coming back to karma, I just want to read over this paragraph again. With Rainbow Bridge Phase 2, we aim to cleanse and neutralize where your karmic memory is wounded by a complex. The process of unwounding allows you to harmonize with the law of karma and make more holistic, conscious-based choices that come from an internally healed and whole place within yourself, rather than a choice being completely dictated by an externally wounded circumstance, meaning a circumstance that's constantly being reinforced and reiterated by a deep complex or wound. So essentially speaking, but I'm greatly oversimplifying here, but just to keep it straight to the point and crystal clear, essentially speaking, there are two types of choices. There are internal choices that come from a strong inner knowing of what is authentic for you and your health on physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. And then there are external choices, which come from a place external. It's a choice based on some outer authority or perceived outer authority. So Rainbow Bridge Phase 1 and Phase 2 help to clear internal and external distortions, so our choices can be more soul-based and soul-infused, rather than the constant repeated triggers of wound-based experiences that are playing out because of the law of cause and effect, the law of karma. Karma is memory. So, choice and your ability to choose is the most powerful energetic tool you have. And it is. Choice and your ability to choose is the most powerful energetic tool you have. Reclaiming your ability to clearly and consciously choose and repeat that process in any situation is a big part of enlightenment, and enlightenment in motion in the modern world. So in other words, when someone's asking me, Chloe, what is enlightenment? In a very basic sense, in a very straightforward sense, in a very modern sense, if you will, to me, enlightenment is the ability to reclaim your ability to clearly and consciously choose and repeat and be able to demonstrate that ability and process in any given situation you find yourself in. You can choose more clearly when you have cleared external and internal complexes. This allows you to harmonize with the light law of cause and effect. This allows you to harmonize more with the law of cause and effect, the law of karma. And you stop getting pulled into old, past, wound-based experiences. And you become harder to manipulate. And you can also add on there that it also becomes harder to manipulate yourself. And I brought this up in a previous class, where sometimes people can get very overly concerned with what they think other people are trying to make them do, or what other people might be coercing them into doing. But can we please remember to make sure that you're not manipulating yourself first, that you're not twisting yourself out of shape first, that you're not manipulating yourself first before you're getting overly concerned over what others may or may not be trying to do or not get you to do, or whatever the case may be. So this technique that I'm discussing, meaning the Rainbow Bridge techniques, also helps you to work internally with yourself more harmoniously as well, which is where the healing begins. So I hope this video has been helpful, meaning that's just what I wanted to jump on my little YouTube channel and talk about today, meaning just talking a little bit about, in the most practical way and direct way possible, one way of discussing what karma is about, and what the law of cause and effect is in a practical, everyday, in an everyday way. So as always, I hope this video has been insightful. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's answered some questions. As always, if you have any questions about the Rainbow Bridge techniques, please do contact me. I'll put a link down the bottom of this video. If you would like this document handout, especially if you are practicing the Rainbow Bridge techniques, meaning I work with people who not only sign up for my proper tutor-based classes, but I also support the Rainbow Bridge community through the solone.org website, meaning that website was set up so anyone would be able to have access to the Rainbow Bridge Phase 1 and Phase 2 techniques. So if you're a solo Rainbow Bridge practitioner and you would like this document to just mull over and ponder on, just as something practical to think about in terms of what karma is and the law of cause and effect, please do contact me. You can contact me through my website, www.chloefolan.com. And I believe that's all I wanted to mention for this video. It is, and I'll put a link to the solone.org website as well as my own website down below this video as well. So on that note, I hope this video has been helpful. I hope it'll point people in a direction for being able to more practically understand and more tangibly understand karma and what that is. On that note, 7 ray blessings to all.